After getting stabbed with a blade that cut his connection to the web of life, Spider-Man's history gets rewritten completely as he ends up raising his hand up and ultimately never gets bit by a spider. And while the spider goes to bit Cindy Moon, Peter gets bullied by Flash and his friends, but overall Peter was still happy as we see him returning back home to May and Ben until a robber smashed their door telling them not to move, only for Peter to jump and take the bullet for May, letting Ben handle the robber. Peter, however, was shot in the leg and therefore later finds out that he may never walk, but with enough time he actually managed to start walking again with a crutch, which only made him get bullied more until his bully suddenly gets slammed by who turns out to be Flash Thompson, telling Pete that he heard about his heroic act with the robber, and so just like that, the entire school loved him as he started to sit at the popular kids table where he'd get asked out on dates and start getting picked up for parties and whatnot. However, one day Sandman would attack their school but quickly gets stopped by Silk, who would get praised by everyone except for Jonah, who obviously called her a menace. Peter was so obsessed with Silk that Flash began teasing him, asking him if he soon is gonna start a fan club before he suggested that Pete should use his big brain to actually work with her, which Pete ends up taking to heart as he instantly begins spending hours developing various gadgets, including his own silk signal that he activates to somehow alert her spider sense, where he then meets up with her and tells her about the insane tech he made her, and she eventually agrees to use them in her fights, which helps her so much that it changed Jonah's perception about her. But that didn't distract Pete from graduating with good grades, where he gets offered a scholarship from Norman as a few years then pass by and we see Peter the employee of the month at Oscorp. However, later that day the Queen Shathra celebrates that she had cut the web of life connection from most of the Spider-Man right as Peter starts to get strange messages written by spiders. Shathra then infects the web of life, which spreads across the multiverse, where the remaining spider people are trying to stop this as Felicia then reveals that she has the blade that originally cut the web of life connections, which they end up using to stab Moreland, freeing all the spider souls he had eaten throughout the years to ultimately heal the web of life, where Pete eventually got connected again and returned to his life of the Amazing Spider-Man.